Welcome back. I feel like I'm so many weeks behind. I really did not mean for this much time to pass between my last episode and this one, but life was life and I had stuff I had to, take care of and work on in the meantime, but I'm back. And I also was struggling to decide what I wanted this episode to be. So there's so much material in our world today. So many things going on, good, bad, ugly, and different, just all of the things. And I finally figured out what I wanted to talk about. And I think what really set this off was over the weekend there were, I believe, two people in Minnesota killed by them people that don't have nothing else to do but barge down people's doors and try to say who should be in this country when this country is stolen land to begin with. But what do I know? Right? I'm just a descendant of the people that were actually also stolen and forced to work this land and have been treated like trash ever since when we didn't ask to be here. But hey, right. The land of was the land of the free, home of the brave. Yeah, sure, whatever. So, and shout out to my mother, the Creole princess, the bootylicious goddess that she is for the episode title. Shout out to Beyonce Giselle Knowles Dash Carter, because though the song had a totally different vibe, the title still stands. She was absolutely on the money when she said, or when she decided to name the song, America Has a Problem. America has a lot of problems. The list is a laundry list, and the things on the list is endless. So many bullet points, we'll have to invent new numbers to be able to count them all. And America has been had a problem. It's just that now America's problems are touching people that ain't never touched before. So now people are like, oh my God, this country is just so, I can't believe. Guess where you can shove your surprise that America is raggedy? Because it is. Guess where you can put that? Okay. Yeah. So it's so much going on in the world. I don't want to be the bury my head in the sand type of person, because being a sin duck is just not my ministry. Like, yeah, I'm gonna try not to really just always be in negative stuff, and you do have to take a break, and you do have to try to find balance and still try to enjoy yourself, even though it seems like the list of enjoyable things is shrinking to be smaller and smaller, especially if you are not part of the top 1% and you are, dealing with all the changes that's going on in this world. You're not insulated by an abundance of money, or, being part of certain groups to where you can kind of do whatever you want and not really repercussions for it. But yeah, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get into the things today with this land mass that we are living on, because America needs a hard reset. America needs to be put in rice. And to be honest, I wish I could build a time machine to go back to the beginning and prevent all this stuff from happening, because I don't know, the United States of America, I don't know, do you mean Turtle Island? This ain't your stuff. You stole this. Just like you stole anyway. Let's move on, child. I'll get to that later. So really, all of the recent chaos and the increase in chaos, especially with it being televised and coming up on social media, it really reminds me of the two books written by Octavia Butler, Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. Now, some of y'all may already be familiar with those books. Some of y'all maybe have already read both. I did finish Parable of the Sower. I think I'm about halfway through Parable of the Talents. I actually meant to read some of that last night, but I got distracted, or I got sleepy or something. I don't know. But I haven't finished that one. If you have not read those books, especially if you are a part of one or more marginalized groups of people, I highly, 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 and strongly suggest that you read both. Now, I will say, a few trigger warnings. There are some instances of sexual assault. I think, is it in both books? I think it might be in both. I think. I'm not sure, but of course, there's violence. Unfortunately, violence against children as well. And I know when I say that, you might be like, "Girl, why do I want to read that?" But I'm telling y'all, and to be honest, if we look at our world, violence against women and children is one of the foundations of this place. Violence against indigenous or Native Americans, however, you want to identify them or however they want to be identified. I'll do respect to those people. The violence against those women, the sexual assault of those women, forcing them as young as 10 and 11 years old to get with quote unquote conquistadors and colonizers, making them have children with grown men to try to, quote unquote clean their blood and violence against women and children is the foundation of this country. It's also a foundation of the most popular religion in this country. Again, I speak more to Christianity because it's the religion that I was brought up in. It's the religion that pretty much everybody I grew up around participated in. It's the religion that's the most publicized, the most supported, the most common. Where I am, I live in the Bible Belt. I'm from the Bible Belt. It's just the most popular religion that I know, and it's the one that I know the best. It's the one that I've been exposed to the most. It's the one that I have personal experience, with participating in, disagreeing with, and where I am now, I am actually stepping away from it. Not to be confused with stepping away from God. Me and God are locked in. Now, the way I see God now is not the way I saw God growing up. I don't agree with the way God is presented in church settings. I don't agree with the way God is presented in the Bible. But that's a whole nother topic for another time. But just to be clear, violence against women and children has been long normalized. It's still normalized. Think about, okay, for example, this is a little bit off topic, but just to make a point, about, I don't want the mention of those things to discourage people from reading those books, because those books are really insightful. And to be honest, Octavia Butler, the author of those two books, has been referenced as an oracle because she really did predict our future. And oh shoot, give me just a second. Let me get the dates that those books were published. So, Parable of the Sower, I believe, was published in 1993. And Parable of the Talents was published in, I believe, 1998. However, Octavia Butler, the queen, the visionary, the spiritually tapped in woman that she was able to very accurately predict the way that America was going to change in the times that we're living now. So on point that it's scary. I'm like, my sister, how did you know that this was coming? The things that went on in her brain, I would not want to be plagued with those type of thoughts. And actually, it was supposed to be a trilogy, but unfortunately, Miss Butler passed away before she was able to complete the third book. But those first two books, on the money, very accurate, written and published back in the 90s, and she has called so many things that have already happened, so many things that are happening now. And unless the people here buckle down and get on their Zooms and really flip tables over like Jesus did in the temple or the synagogue, wherever he was when he did that in the Bible, yeah, it's not looking too good for us. It's looking real bleak. It's looking real treacherous. It's looking like, baby, I need to go get a shovel and go dig a tunnel today so I can hide on the ground when everything really falls apart, because it's not looking good. But I say that just to warn people that those books do have mention of violence against people, but it is so insightful, so good, so mind-blowing of how accurate her predictions of the future was. I really do strongly advise anybody that's listening, if you like to read, even if you don't, try to go get an audiobook. I don't know if there are audiobooks available. I personally have the Kindle versions of both books. I can, pop open my phone or my iPad and read when I have some time. But if they have an audiobook version of it, I think that would also be good. And the reasons why those books popped up in my mind when it comes to what I'm observing in this world or in our country right now is the government breaking all of the quote unquote rules. People are saying, oh, well, they can't do this because that's against the law. And they can't do this because that's not in the Constitution, or that is in the Constitution. That's cute. But have you paid attention to this administration? They don't give two shits about any law. They don't care. To them, they are the law. They make the law. They break the law. They change the law when they feel like it because they're tyrants. They're disgusting. They're evil. They're demonic. It is their mission to come here and use and abuse their power to hurt the everyday person. Not only did that book reflect our current government just doing whatever they want to do, also making American society so unlivable that everybody except for the rich is vulnerable. Vulnerable to not being able to find a home with these crazy interest rates. These people are wanting to sell 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses for over $300,000. Excuse me, as somebody who was born in the mid-90s, I don't think so. Nah, Bookie. That ain't what you charge for that. Back in my day, coming up, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I mean, maybe $100K, depending on how big it is and where it's at. I wish I would pay that much. And then the houses aren't even new. Absolutely not. Making it to where you go to your local grocery store, even if you get stuff that's on sale, or, you at your Kroger getting the stuff with the list stickers, where you can put in your number and get a discount when you go to the list self-checkout or whatever. The totals are ridiculous. We actually still have snow and ice on the ground right now. I went to the store before the weather got bad and I got some things for my home. And I did not get as much as I really wanted to because I was, trying to be mindful of how much I was spending because everything is so ridiculously expensive right now. And even though I can afford it, I don't want to blow all my money on groceries because I'm pretty sure that Beyonce will be going on tour soon. And I need to have money to go see my mama on the floor. I want to be on the floor seats. I want to be so close to Beyonce when she walk past me, I can smell her. Okay? I don't want to spend all my money on stupid groceries. My total was like $150 and I didn't even get that much. I got some meat, but most of the stuff I got wasn't even meat or produce. That's ridiculous. Making it to where if people, I would really hate to be someone that's trying to purchase a car right now because even buying a used car right now, these prices are damn ridiculous. You can't even get a used car note for like under $300. I'm not used to paying that much for no car note, and I won't. My little car is paid off. It works. It looks nice. It turns on. It drives. Great. I will be Fred Flintstone scrubbing the soles of my feet on some concrete, and I will get my yabba dabba do on and drive my car that way before I go buy another one in this economy. Absolutely not. I will grow wings and fly before I go buy a new car in this economy. Also, just clothes, everything is so expensive and the quality is not good. Restaurants want to take stuff off their menu, raise the prices, but you're not getting as much in a portion size, and it's not as good. Just making society just be so unpleasant to engage with, and again, being just honestly unlivable for the average person. The book also got into government-sponsored or government-backed groups, snatching people up and forcing them into buildings or spaces, holding them captive with no explanation, no real reason to do so, separating children from, parents, separating spouses, separating families from each other. And in a Parable of the Talents specifically, again, I haven't finished that book, but it's as far as I've gotten in it, it includes talking about these government-sponsored religious groups forcing people to subscribe to quote-unquote Christianity. And I say quote-unquote because the way they behave and the things they advocate for are nothing of the sort that my God personally, my God be like, absolutely not. I didn't say that. Don't do that. Don't believe that. That it's not me. Jesus be like, nah. I don't know where they got that from. But I did not say that. If you ain't see it in red, it ain't come from me, okay? But those groups, forcing people to subscribe to Christianity and being extremely violent and murderous if people don't comply. Sound familiar? I don't know. It's almost like that's been done before. Where have I? Let's see. It's a descendant of Africans. Where have I heard religion being forced on people before? I don't know. I'm gonna let y'all chew on that. Now, these books were published in the 90s. And Octavia Butler so perfectly predicted the years that we've recently left and the ones we're in now. And again, like I just said, what's crazier and even scarier is that she literally was working on the third book. It was supposed to be a trilogy. But like I said, she died. So she did not finish the book. And that just makes me, of course, I'm sad that she passed away because I feel like her life was cut short. I feel like she was such a brilliant woman and there just could have been so many more things she could have done in her lifetime had she had more time on this earth. But it does really make me think, what else did she know? Because she knew some stuff. If you've read the book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you do give the books a chance, I really hope you at least take a peek and read a few chapters to really get into it and see if you like it. She truly was an oracle. So I know that if she had a third book in this trilogy, she had more intuitive knowledge about what's ahead of us. I don't even want to think about what else could possibly be coming. Because what we have so far is just so jarring. Again, way worse things have happened, in my opinion, in the United States past. For example, like I said, displacing Native Americans, giving them diseases on purpose, sexually assaulting the women to try to, un-indigenous the bloodline. Bringing Africans over here against their will, treating them like honestly, less than garbage. I feel like they treated garbage with more respect for centuries and centuries and centuries on end, separating those families, raping the women, making them have babies to breed to get new free workers, making those same women get back out in the fields and work right after having babies. Hanging people for fun, eating people, chaining babies to horses, letting the horses run in opposite directions so the babies can be ripped apart, feeding the babies to alligators, using African skin and teeth and hair for home decor, and then, having the audacity to hunt them down when they decided they did not want to be abused anymore, and, trying to have the nerve to punish them for not wanting to be treated like crap. I mean, in post-slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, I'm going to give you 40 acres and a mule, and we still waiting. And the black people that did, that were able to accumulate some type of, property, money, stability. And when they did come together to form their own communities to try to, find some type of supporting each other, because each other was all they had, people would come in and bomb them and burn them up and kill them and hang them. And anybody who didn't get killed had to just run for the hills. So, and that's just, we can get into, the concentration camps that were held here. We can get into the war on drugs. One day I might just do an episode just about Ronald Reagan. He is in hell. I don't care what nobody say. Hell might not exist, but if there is one, he need to be the first person there. He need to have a VIP section in there, and his flames need to be turned up to the max. He did so much damage. Everybody talks about that current orange food that's up there with his sloppy ass. Yeah, he ain't about nothing either. And George Bush, you will also pay for your crimes. Shout out to the man that threw that shoe at George Bush. If he is still alive, I hope you are having a very fantabulous, prosperous, beautiful, and amazing 2026. Because my God, you were a real one for that. The only thing that would have made that moment better is if the shoe would have connected. George Bush is slow. George Bush is slower than a parked car. I would love to slice his brain open. It probably ain't even nothing in there. It probably ain't nothing but space and tumbleweeds rolling around in that skull of his. He's just stupid. Him, Ronald Reagan. There are a lot of other people that are not getting the proper lashings that they should, because they absolutely are all part of the destruction and the BS that we see today. And with that being said, you really don't even have to ever crack open any of her books. to be honest, we can just look at history because it's absolutely repeating itself in a worse way. The United States is acting a fool for our current modern lifetime, but this is absolutely not the first time that the United States has been a place of chaos, unjustified murders, and a place where rights are being taken away. It's just now so blatant and in our faces that people who ignored it before can't ignore it now because they're being affected by it now. They're being hit. So, people can't. I mean, some people are still burying their heads in the sand, but the average person is like not really being able to ignore it like they wanted, like they would want, or like they were doing before. And America has always had a problem since its inception because of its imperialist and colonialist origins. And real quick, just to get into imperialism versus colonialism, imperialism is the broader idea or policy of a stronger nation extending its power, influence, or authority over weaker regions, often through economic, political, or military force. While colonialism is a specific practice of imperialism where a nation physically settles, occupies, and directly rules over a foreign territory to exploit its resources and population. With that being said, the powers that be have an insatiable thirst for domination and violence. America will always have a problem until those ways are done away with, and the people that have a death grip on that type of approach until they also are done away with. And to take it even further, one of the most insidious parts of colonialism is that it indoctrinates its victims to adopt hateful ways of thinking. It also encourages and rewards oppressed people to keep others in line that dare to say screw all that. But ironically enough, the people who do the bidding of their oppressors have to always find out the hard way that no amount of shucking and jiving will save you. Once you're no longer beneficial, your oppressors will gladly remind you that their feet are still on your neck. And I feel like that is the realization that a lot of people in America are having now. Again, there have always been certain people who have always been at the bottom. Not to say they're at the bottom because they're inherently worthless or have less value, but the bottom in terms of the hierarchy that America has defined as its culture. And groups that were able to kind of bypass that for one reason or another before, it was whatever. Oh, it's because of them. They don't work hard enough. Maybe they just should go to school and, just follow the law, follow the rules. But now the same people that were echoing that are experiencing what other people have always experienced. And like I said earlier, now it's this big shock about, oh my God, what's happening to this country? Oh my God, we're so divided. I just cannot believe. I don't know why you can't believe, because this is not new. You just didn't want to believe because you didn't care, because you weren't affected. But again, as a Black American whose family has been in this country, in the South, for generations, none of this is new to me. What's new is seeing how blatant they're being with it, because it never stopped. Imperialism, colonialism, it never stopped. It's always been consistent. It just got to the point to where the powers that be had to be a little more, or a lot more, covert and undercover with what they were doing. But now they switched gears. They want to be in your face. They want to be loud, bold, and proud about it. And now, like I said, people are not able to ignore it anymore, because unless you are like in a coma or maybe dead, I don't know, you cannot help but see the direction that we're going in. And it is not a good one if something does not change, and change quickly. Having certain privileges over others will make you get real comfortable if you're not careful. Saying stuff like, I'm not like the others, I have a degree, I came here legally. Stuff like that will give you a false sense of security. And the powers that be see us as them versus us, with the us being regular people that have to work every day. They want us to be consumed with whatever privileges we may have so they can continue to exploit us for their benefit, however they may look. And to be honest, you should have a basic level of care and concern for others, whether you're personally affected or not. But then again, American society was intentionally shaped to be individualistic, because if people can't have empathy for their neighbor, they'll be much less likely to revolt against the people at the top. And well, here we are. Yet, at another point in U.S. history where we're in an active battle against the people who are supposed to be serving everyone. Even if you feel like you're not a target, you are. And even if you feel like someone else doesn't deserve government services and protections, they do. Another problem America is having is the attack on our health. This administration is going into overdrive to dismantle healthcare. And that's saying a lot, because our healthcare system was already awful and needed a major overhaul. Doing stuff like trying to make plans completely unaffordable is diabolical, especially when people are getting sicker and we technically still never recover from COVID. Capitalism has worked people so much into the ground that autoimmune diseases and mental health issues are on the rise. So we're expected to work jobs to feed, clothe, and house ourselves. And I mean, excuse us if we also want to have some disposable income to have some fun on the side. But if we get sick from being overworked, it's just supposed to be too bad. But keep coming to work jobs that don't want to pay while the cost of living continues to skyrocket. Child, please. Absolutely not. Another thing is how Mr. Brainworm is seemingly dismantling any and all medical advancements that we've gained thus far. PBS posted a story on January 2nd of this year tallying all the ways he's been destructive since they took over. Since last February, he's frozen or canceled billions of dollars for scientific research. He's eliminated thousands of jobs under the agency he unfortunately and incompetently oversees. He keeps attacking vaccine requirements and recommendations, and he's dead set on promoting these vaccine caused autism foolishness. And you know what? To be honest, autism versus a parasite chewing on your brain cells. I don't know. There are some very intelligent, fabulous, and successful autistic people out here. I don't know nobody getting their brain snacked on that's worth anything. I'll take autism for 500, Alex. Shout out to Alex Trebek. I hope he's resting peacefully. And that's not even everything Mr. My Brain is a Snack has done. Who knows? It's so much mess we probably really are not gonna know for real until years down the line, once everybody is suffering from it. And another layer to this is the cutting of like our standard for food regulations. An article on NPR from May 2025 details how massive cuts by this administration to the 3 federal agencies in charge of monitoring our food quality has, definitely had negative effects on what we're consuming, with those agencies being the FDA, the Department of Agriculture, and the CDC. A policy expert named Sarah, I hope I'm going to say her last name right, Sorsher, sorry girl, if that's not right, said that our federal food safety system is teetering on the brink of collapse. And that was last year when she said that. So again, a lot of times you don't find out that something is a widespread issue or something is in a perilous state until so many people have suffered. That was last year. We have no idea the ramifications of what's happened in about a year and how that will look on us. We have no idea. This foolishness makes us more vulnerable to outbreaks of foodborne illnesses. And that same NPR article also states that many states currently can't even afford to have staff dedicated to public communications. And this is dangerous because it results in delayed warnings and less accuracy with tracking cases that would affect national data. Again, it's hard to prepare and defend yourself and maneuver through some type of widespread food issue when you don't even know what's going on. That's the point of these agencies having these different employees and departments so everybody can work together to make one thing run smoothly. You going to the grocery store trying to feed yourself, trying to feed your family, trying to feed your children. Meanwhile, you really don't know if the stuff y'all are buying is safe to eat. And by the time y'all do find out, somebody could die. Somebody could, be like him and have something in their head chewing on their thoughts. Who wants to be like that? Who wants to be like that? Who wants to look like that? You see what I'm saying? And the last thing I want to add right here is that they're also trying to speed up the process that the FDA uses to approve some drugs. I'm not sure if it was some or all, but definitely some, if not all. And given that, I'm pretty sure everybody's seen the commercials that, oh, did you take this medicine back here? You might be entitled to a class action. We already have experienced issues from certain drugs even before this administration when regulations, were strongly in place. So I can't imagine how detrimental this will be if this administration continues to have its way with these health organizations. And with all of that being said, this is a dastardly concerted effort to destroy everyone. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what foundation shades you wear. I don't care who your favorite celebrity is. Everybody getting hit. They the feds and we on trial for RICO. Everybody's getting hit. Please understand, there is nothing you can do. I can't even say grow your own food because they are taking farmers as well. Everybody's at risk. Regardless of what you think you safe from. You're not. We're being attacked from every angle and they're not going to stop if their power is not taken away. And for me personally, one of the worst parts of all of this is that we are actually expected to keep moving like nothing is happening. Like, how am I supposed to concentrate at work when Roe versus Wade was overturned? How am I supposed to concentrate at work, like, at all when all of this mess is going on in the background? I'm just supposed to la-di-da-di-da. First of all, I don't really think anybody wants to be at work for real, for real, for real. I know some people do love their jobs. I have had jobs before that I really did enjoy in the past. But to be honest, if I didn't have to clock in, I don't think the average person would be sitting up giving 40 hours of their week to a job. I personally would rather be on the beach, wiggling my toes in the sand with a nice drink in my hand, staring at the clouds. That's just me personally. Now, if you want to spend your free time at a desk or on a computer, clicking on your keyboard, making somebody else money, good for you. God bless. Merry Christmas. But, yeah, for me, I don't necessarily, prefer to be a working girl. It's just what I know I need to do. And you mean to tell me I have to deal with everything on my job when all of this stuff is going on in the back of my head? Like, it's like that meme that I see on Twitter all the time. I think it's like a dog or something where it's in a room full of fire and it's like, oh, this is fine. Everything is fine. It's like, no, it's not. But I have to just sit here and act like it's not fine. Then if, you actually want to acknowledge that everything is not fine, people look at you like you're crazy. It's like, am I crazy or am I aware? Don't call me crazy when the powers that be are showing their tails the way they are. If I'm going to be crazy, I'd rather be my version of crazy than theirs. Hello? Not only does, the overturning of Roe versus Wade really bother me and has bothered me ever since it happened, I'm thinking about all types of stuff like how we have a corrupt Supreme Court. Poor Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, my soror, beautiful black woman, accomplished, so intelligent. I feel so bad for her because while what she did and who she is so historic, she absolutely is a history maker, and I do believe her name will be remembered for generations and generations. She is in such a crappy spot because she doesn't even really have a lot of power, because she is outweighed by a majority that's gonna go for with whatever Mr. Orange Foundation wants to go, with. They have no scruples, no morals, no backbone, no code of ethics, nothing at all. Just going with whatever he say. People can barely afford to live. Like, I don't know how many times I need to emphasize how high stuff is. This is really crazy. You should not. I've seen bags of chips like $6 or $7, and it's half air. If you don't stop playing with me, if you do not stop playing with me, and don't get me started on the job market. This job market is so incredibly treacherous. Even people with more degrees are having the hardest time. I know so many people who are so smart, so accomplished, very nice resumes. They've gone to school, they've done the things, and they are having such a hard time to find anything worth signing an offer letter for. That is crazy. Something else that I noticed the uptick in this a while ago, and I said, that's interesting. I'm gonna keep an eye on that. And what was happening was exactly what I thought. The increase of conservative trad wife propaganda being pushed on socials, encouraging young susceptible girls and women to give up their autonomy while their rights are simultaneously being snatched away. It's so devious, because you see the gains that women have made, you see the freedom that women have had to fight for, you see the way that in older social settings women's wings would have been clipped, but now they're starting to spread them instead. And I mean, they've been doing that, but women are outperforming men in a lot of ways, and most importantly choosing not to be married to them and not to have their children. And of course it's like, oh my God, how dare she not let me use her as a baby incubator? How dare she have her own dreams? How dare you think somebody wants you to deposit in them? Who are you? Who are you? uh, who are you supposed to be? What's so fabulous about your chromosomes? Please tell me. Because I can't tell by looking at you. Please. And, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that group of mass weirdos who are unlawfully barging in homes, snatching up Native Americans, for God's sake. Please tell me, if you are going to snatch up an indigenous person whose ancestors have been here since the jump, please tell me where you're going to send them. Where are you going to send them? To another tribe? Where are you going to send them? This is their land. They were here first. This is their home. Where are you going to send them? I would love to know the answer to that. I really want somebody to be able to let me know that. Also, tear gassing children, separating them from their families, arresting actual citizens, and murdering people in broad daylight. And to be very clear, I don't care if somebody dug a tunnel and popped up out the ground like they're a groundhog in order to get over here. Undocumented immigrants still deserve due process, and no, they do not deserve to die just because they're not citizens. Are you crazy? Like, they're still human beings. I don't know, maybe going back to the whole imperialism thing, I don't know, maybe if the United States wasn't always involved in destabilizing other countries, people would not have to get up and flee and try to run over here to find some sense of normalcy, because the U.S. behind the scene is like messing up their homelands. I don't know, just a thought. And I'm really, this America for Americans really be blowing me, because if you really want to come up with a slogan, how about Turtle Island for Turtle Islanders? What about that? That's much more accurate, much more appropriate, based off of history, based off of reality. Girl gone. Boy gone. They gone. Just go. And I know that a lot of people are drawing parallels between the attack on, or the focus and targeted, I guess you can say, attack on immigration, and the way that Jews were also being targeted in Germany. And I definitely do agree with that parallel, and I've thought of that myself. But I also want to bring up a parallel that I haven't heard anybody else point out except for one creator on TikTok. And to be honest, I didn't even think of it myself until I saw her video. Her name, well, I don't know what her name is for real, but her @ name is at BPG313 on TikTok. And shout out to her, because again, she has been the only person that I've seen make this connection. And when I looked into it more myself, I was like, okay, yeah, she was right on the money with that. And also, yeah, we can say that ICE is acting like how they were acting in Germany, having Jewish people hiding and scared to come out their houses, and snatching them up and taking them out their houses, and them being thrown in these concentration camps altogether, being separated from their families, mysteriously, quote unquote, ending up dead, never being seen again, all those things. And that absolutely is true. But please, let's not forget that Germany studied U.S. subjugation of Africans to practice the same, and similarly used the subjugation to justify targeting Jews. And going to what the creator on TikTok pointed out is that the ICE raid and the war on drugs are also very similar. With the war on drugs, there, of course, were the harsh mandatory minimums for drug offenses. And as we can see now, and it's not exactly new, but it's definitely ramped up more recently with federal immigration, they've made an array of drug offenses ground for mandatory detention and deportation, no matter how long ago the offense occurred. And just real quick to make it clear, when I say the war on drugs, I'm referring to the crack epidemic that happened in the 80s and ravaged like the black community. That's what I'm talking about. And moving on, so in both the crack epidemic and the current brutality we're seeing towards immigration, we see two different events where targeted minorities are demonized through both media and politics. So with the crack epidemic, of course, we saw, and that was technically before my time. I was not here on earth yet when that happened. However, I mean, learning, anecdotes from family members, history, yeah. Poor black people were the targets, encouraging stereotypes against those people. And with immigration, immigrants are stereotyped instead, and they're stereotyped as criminals and drug traffickers. In both events, we also see a targeting of minor offenses. In the drug epidemic, minor low-level possession was punished. And with the current immigration raids, we also see sweeps. And with the current immigration raids, we see people being swept up for minor drug infractions or just for being undocumented. And with both of these, we see both black and brown people being disproportionately targeted. And with the war on drugs, we see, of course, black communities were targeted, especially with crack cocaine usage and possession being penalized much worse than powder cocaine usage and possession, which is crazy because it's like they're both the exact same drug. Like the way I be joking, but I really do. What do I call? I think I call coke cold crack, and I call crack like hot coke or Wonder Coke. It's the same thing. It's like apple juice versus apple cider. Like, anyway, let me not get off on a tangent. Anywho, similarly with immigration raids, Latino and black immigrants are disproportionately targeted. And both the crack epidemic and the current immigration issue, both were and are relying on racially targeted policing that then create entry points into the legal system. And not to be lost, that it's a concerted effort between local and federal law enforcement to round up the people that they're targeting. And lastly, on this point, the whole get tough, quote unquote, rhetoric that influences policy, just like in the drug epidemic, we saw, well, again, before my time, technically, society saw that lead to the 1994 crime bill. And we've seen how the quote-unquote cracking down on illegal aliens is resulting in increasingly cruel and inhumane immigration policy changes. And I also think I'd be remiss if I don't also briefly mention the drastically different media and policy response between the 80s and maybe some into the 90s, again, before I technically cross into the earth side, drug epidemic, and then the more recent opioid epidemic. I would lie and say I wonder why the response has been differently. And I mean, I could lie for the sake of lying because, lying seems to make this world go round. But I don't know. I'm just too real to even play like that. But what I will do is be funny and just be like, I wonder, what is it about the mainly perceived users of opiates, and the main demographic suffering from the opioid epidemic would make that response, because they don't even call it like the war on drugs. It was just, what did they call it? Like the opioid crisis. And widespread drug usage and drug overdoses is a problem. It's a public health issue regardless. But see, our government, our society, our media, our politics wants to determine what's a crisis and what's something where the people need to be thrown in jail or worse. And we don't need to get to the root of the issue again based off what foundation shade the users are. And I don't have time for that. If we want to be concerned about drug usage, let's be concerned about it no matter what their hand look like. No matter if you can see their veins through the top of their hands or not. But there's too much like right. If that was the case, I probably wouldn't have anything to talk about on this podcast. So there's that. So I didn't necessarily have any more notes, but I think I was going to possibly look into see what else I might want to discuss on this episode. But you know what? Scratch all that. What I'm going to close out with, by the time this will be posted, unless, you are purposely not trying to keep up what's going on in the world, or if you are in a coma, dead, or have your head buried in the sand, by now it should be pretty much widespread knowledge that Don Lemon, Georgia Fort, I hope I'm about to say their name correctly, Traherne Jean Cruz and Jamel Lydell Lundy. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced their names, but those 4 journalists were recently arrested and released. I know Don Lemon was released, Georgia Fort was as well. I believe the last 2 have also been released by this point, or at this point. And they were arrested in connection with the anti-ICE protests at a Minnesota church where the organizers came in during a church service, putting the pastor on blast. He up there in his suit looking a mess, looking like the devil himself, talking about quote unquote God and, love and this and whatever else he pulled out his butt that morning to lie to them people in there that's giving him their money. They came in there to protest, as they should have, because that's their right, against him being a hypocrite, as they should have, because he is. And the journalists were there letting the people know what was going on, getting into the things with the people so the people can stay informed, as they should have, because that's their job. It's somebody with a journalism degree and has worked at a news station before multiple times at different capacities. I know what I'm talking about, and I know that they know what they're talking about. Again, going back to the very beginning of this episode, talking about Octavia Butler and those books. Another thing I don't think I mentioned earlier, but another thing that happened in the 2 novels that I've gotten to so far was them having to use very quote-unquote antiquated ways of getting true news that had not been manipulated, and people not having the luxury of being able to pop on their TV or hop online and see a generously or to see a generally unbiased journalist or media personality giving just the honest rundown or an objective rundown of what's going on in the world. Everybody knows that they didn't do anything wrong, no matter what they pull out their butt to try to justify them being arrested. Some people are just stupid, and they are just going to say stupid stuff no matter what, because they've never been loved, they've never been wanted, they know they raggedy, their self-esteem is under the crust of the earth, and they just want to project their voices out into the air because they want somebody to listen to them, because the people that were irresponsibly horny and brought them into this world never listened to them, and they were supposed to be the first ones to set the tone. I don't care about anybody trying to, well, they shouldn't have it. Your mama shouldn't have had you, and your daddy should have been sleeping with her. How about that? Go to hell. Nothing was wrong with what they were doing. People know that. It's nothing but a way to try to intimidate them and to try to discourage anyone else that decides that they want to try to keep people informed of what is actually going on. And I hope that we see the same response to this as we did when Jimmy Kimmel got his show snatched up off their little nighttime spot. I'm pretty sure we won't. Because again, Don Lemon and those other 3 journalists look very different from how Jimmy Kimmel looks. But I am very curious to see. Now Jane Fonda, shout out to the OG Jane. Jane Fonda has been on the right side of history for a very long time. She is somebody that I have looked up and tried to make sure that she wasn't just saying stuff because it was cute and trendy. No, Jane Fonda has been in the mix for a very long time. I did see where she came out and spoke in defense of them. Thank you so much, because I know that it's probably gonna be real silent from over there. But she always, from what I know, from what is documented, from what I've always heard people say, from what I have looked up myself, Jane Fonda will peep her head out and be like, hey. I don't know what you're doing, but you know you wrong. Back up. You're doing too much. I appreciate that. But again, I say all of that to say, back to what's described in the books, back to what I've been saying this whole time, back to the episode title. America has a problemo. Not just one problem, not just a few problems. Problem longer than Jay-Z's list of 99. Trying to silence people, trying to censor people, as we already said, they already went messing with the TikTok algorithm. Journalists are supposed to go report what's going on, regardless of how they feel about something. If they went to school, like I went to school, and if they got a journalism degree, like I got a journalism degree, they already know what time it is. They know how it's supposed to be formatted. They know how to ask certain questions. They know how to observe the environment around them and get into the meat to keep people's attention. They know how to ethically, they're supposed to, know how to ethically cover a happening or an event. Arresting somebody because they're going against the people that you have tapped on their shoulders to be your puppets, the people that you want up your booty hole, the people that you want to have on a leash. Who cares if you don't like what they say? If you don't want somebody coming to see your church blasting you as somebody that support ICE, how about you stop supporting ICE? How about that? How about you stop supporting this group that is kidnapping people and essentially, like, a lot of these people are like disappearing and magically ending up dead after they're in custody. That's a problem. And to be a religion that, oh my God, Jesus loves you and God is here for you. He wants to save you. And oh, open the Bible. Jesus died for your sin. Okay. That same Jesus went against the social grain at that time. Did you miss that part? Women were treated poorly in the Bible times. And there were times in the Bible where, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the woman that had like the bleeding issue where she had been bleeding. She couldn't stop it. I think that was the same lady that was trying to like touch, and she ended up touching him. And she got healed from touching the hem of his garment. And the other, I believe it was the disciples that were with him at that time, were calling themselves trying to go off on a woman and say, oh, you know, he not here for you. You need to back up and move. Just for Jesus to be like, oh, skirt, hold on, pump your brakes. I'm here for anybody, you know, who wants me, anybody that's trying to, you know, come to me and get to me. You don't tell her that she can't get to me. I'm here for everybody. You don't get to say that. There are a lot of different little anecdotes and stories and things in the Bible where Jesus so intentionally and clearly went against the social norms of that time, and that is not an accident. And the average quote-unquote Christian loves to skip over that part. And they like to get into their bag of hate, or their bag that justifies them being evil to people or isolating groups, or, you know, getting into, you know, they want to play colonizer for the day, and they want to try to subjugate other people and, you know, rank people, and I'm going to treat you this way because you look like this and you speak like this and you from this place and you don't believe in this, so I'm going to do this to you and I'm going to keep you from this. Look, the hell y'all trying to put people in, y'all going to be the ones that's there. Like, y'all are so quick to try to put people in the hell that I don't think technically exists right now. If it ever does, if it ever did, if it ever will, y'all gonna be the ones letting them in. If they going to hell, you gonna be right there next to them. So instead of treating them like a crap on earth, if you so convinced they going to hell, you might want to get to know them and make friends. So when y'all get down there, at least you'll have somebody to talk to while y'all burning up. Cause that's where you going. You not worshiping the gods you think you worship. You're not upholding the spiritual agenda you think you are. And some of y'all are exactly doing you know what you're doing. You know what you're hiding behind, because you know what you hiding behind is more socially acceptable. But what you really, really, really are honestly doing in your life, in your mind, in your heart, in your actions, you know you're upholding the agenda of a different spirit. But see, you can't say that out loud because people be like, oh my goodness, you need to be exercised. And, oh no, let's pray for them. Anyway, whatever. This is a problem. Arresting journalists for doing their job is a problem. We do have the right to free speech. Now, there can still be consequences to free speech, but again, there was nothing wrong with what they did. They did not threaten. They didn't try to harm anyone. They were not belligerent or violent. That's how protests work. Protests aren't supposed to make people comfortable, because if they did, they would never enact change. Like the opposite, I feel like the opposite of comfort is change, and the opposite of change is comfort. There are times where it's okay to be comfortable, and then there are times where being comfortable is the problem, and you need to change. This is a dangerous precedent. They are charging them with BS. I didn't even remember what the charges were named, because it was all stupid and it was all some BS, and it was all just a bunch of shit. So I didn't even care to put that in my brain and remember the names of the charges. But yeah, again, as somebody who is a formally educated and professionally trained journalist, I absolutely will have my eye on this. And even if I wasn't, this is something that people need to pay attention to, because if they are targeting other media professionals, Don Lemon is an independent journalist now, if I'm not mistaken, because he doesn't work at CNN anymore. I know Georgia Fort is a independent journalist. I'm not sure about the other two, but I know for a fact, Don Lemon has his own thing now since he left CNN. They don't even really work for anybody else. They're doing their own thing. You can't tell them they can't report on this if it's happening. Yes, they can. They're doing their job. You can't tell people that they can't protest. Yes, they can. The Constitution that y'all love trying to bring up when it's convenient, this same Constitution says that both are okay. Even if we never had a Constitution, you can't tell me that I can't talk about what's going on in my world. Who are you? I don't have to sweeten my delivery for Todd. I mean, who is Todd? Like, who are you? Again, if you don't want anybody to talk about what you're doing, then stop doing it. If you don't want anybody to call you out for being evil, stop being evil. If you don't want to get blasted for being a hateful hypocrite, don't be one. But what you're not going to do is be behind the scenes doing all this evil stuff, hurting people, separating families, being on the side of wrong, while you're supposed to be a leader of God's people and a flock for his sheep. And then expect that nobody's going to call you out when they find out that you are everything except that. Child, it's an evil world we live in. But that, again, that's not a good sign. It's absolutely an indicator of people's rights being taken away, people being scared into compliance or threatened again with violence, imprisonment, or who knows what else, in order to just lay down and allow themselves to be walked over. And I can't say what other people are willing to do or not willing to do. I do see that there have been people that have been getting out into the field, and a few of them unfortunately have paid with their lives. But this is where we are. And if the next president elected after Obama would have been someone actually qualified to be in their position. Would things be perfect? Of course not. Would the United States government still be on some BS? Duh. Like, it was founded on BS. So, yeah, that's not going to change unless it totally is something different. Absolutely. But would we be where we are right now? I just don't feel that would be the case. I could be wrong, and I guess we'll never know because unfortunately we can't go back in time and change who won. But America does have a problem. America has a lot of problems, and America has had problems for a very long time. It just depends on who's getting hit by the problems, and that determines how big of an issue the problems are and what needs to be done about those problems. But I think I'm all talked out on this topic. I mean, there's probably always more to say, but I think I've said everything that I can in this particular session. And with that being said, I think I'm all talked out on this topic. I mean, there's always more that you can say, but I don't want to just keep dragging on and on and on and on. But I do want to thank everybody that is back listening for yet another episode. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And until next time, bye.